Turkey was at the center of the emerging market currency crisis last year, and it just appears that some of those drivers have not really disappeared, have they?
I mean, the Turkish lira has appreciated 30% against the dollar since the peak in troubles in August. So in that respect, they've settled. But the question is, what's going to happen from now on? I mean, in the last 2 weeks, South Africa, for the first time in 6 months, saw consistent fund flow outflows in the last 2 weeks for the first time since September. Brazil saw its worst week in fund flows in 39 weeks. So there is an emerging market storm coming, it appears. So Turkey is, as an emerging market, obviously will be at the mercy of this storm as well.
Yeah. Just give us a sense or an understanding why the president's party losing the key cities of Ankara and Istanbul is just so significant from an investor point of view, because that also has a hold on the currency, doesn't it?
It does have an effect, but I mean, after these outcomes were released, the currency didn't move, frankly, at all. So for investors, as you know, uncertainty is the biggest problem. It's not necessarily which party is in power, and these are municipal elections we're talking about. So it's not necessarily that one party controls everything. In fact, if you look at the United States in the last 100 years, the stock market has most outperformed when the president and the Congress were of different parties. So investors only fear uncertainty. If they know who won in one area, or as long as that uncertainty is gone, they're okay. Gridlock isn't something to be feared for investors necessarily. But
part of that uncertainty has so much to do with the central bank and the perceived intervention there. We know that in South Africa, for example, talk of intervening in the mandate of the central bank, for example, saw our currency lowered. And Turkey is not very far off from those concerns, is it?
I mean, those are concerns that have been voiced. I frankly don't know how much intervention there has been. I've worked with at least two of the central bankers, members of the committees who have worked, who are on the central bank, and these are people who are graduated from the London School of Economics and Imperial College, the best schools in the world, frankly. They're the economists at the top of their game. So they're not ones to be easily pushed over. They have beliefs about what has to happen with the currency and what has to happen with monetary policy. And we'll see if they're successful in sustaining their mandate of continued prices. So if they do their job well, then prices will be stable. If they don't, obviously they won't be. So, and as you saw just in these elections, if the people don't get what they want, they will change their representatives. No one should take any political position for granted. Everyone is at the mercy of the people, and obviously they decide.
Is the bank not under pressure to lower its policy rate?
The bank is under pressure to lower its policy rate from everyone, including business people. The Turkish interest rates are over 26%. If you go to get a loan from a bank, we're talking about 30% is what you're paying in interest. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies globally, no one is making gross margins even near that amount. Even Apple Apple is not making gross margins or net margins anywhere near 30%. So interest rates need to come down. The good thing is we're lucky that the European Central Bank has continued and has signaled that at least 0% or near 0% interest rates will continue in Europe for at least another 2-3 years. And Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, just recently said 2 weeks ago that the Federal Reserve would not increase rates at all in 2019. And there are people on the Federal Reserve of the United States who believe an interest rate cut is in store. So if that's the case, then Turkey and Brazil and South Africa and other emerging markets can breathe a little bit of sign of relief, and they can, though their central banks can begin to cut interest rates when appropriate.
So just finally, I've got a couple of seconds. Where do you see the lira currency going in the next few months?
I think it's very, very difficult to guess. The currency markets are the most efficient markets. So I'm not going to make a guess, but I think long-term, demographically, investment-wise, Turkey is a good play. And since September, since this crisis that you were talking about, foreigners have invested $19 billion into Turkey. So if these are people that know what they're doing, then I think we should be good in the long term as far as Turkey goes.